Bricky. Here we go again, my dude. I say that as if like my most viewed video in the last 2 years on YouTube isn't like partially because of Bricky. Like the first video I watched of Bricky Warhammer got like almost 2,000 views on it. So like the Bricky reaction videos have definitely freaking assisted the YouTube channel quite a bit. But he hasn't really uploaded a lot of videos lately. I did come across this Elden Ring video, and he's an Elden Ring player, someone who plays a lot of Souls game. I was like, oh, gotta watch this. I don't know what happened to his arm. I'm not gonna assume what happened to his arm. Like an issue with like Elden Ring so hard he broke his arm. Who knows? But we'll check this video out, see what he has to say about a game that I thoroughly enjoy.
Before we start, 3 things. 1, there's new merchandise on my site involving Elden Ring, including the one I'm wearing now. It's got Grace. It's shirt and a hoodie, and we also have the funny red bar no maidens stuff as well. So if you'd like to check that out, it's in the description, orchid.com. Go ahead and, it's good stuff. 2, a lot of you know that I'm sponsored by GamerSupps. I love them. They're amazing. They let me do whatever the hell I want, and you can use code Bricky for 10% off your purchase. But a lot of people have been asking me,
I don't drink gamer shit,
what should
so
I get? And also, when should I get it? And I'm here to help answer some of those questions. I really like GamerSupps. I like the portions. It's not too chalky or anything. It's much.
I feel like there's too many of these. Like there has to be like at least 10 that are popular. Like you got Gamer Fuel, you got Gamer GG, you got this GG, you got freaking Sneak Energy. Like there's so many of these little gamer drinks, and it's like, oh my god. And I haven't had a single drop of any of them. I never will.
Smaller, the caffeine content is solid, and the 0 calories is huge. I always use it instead of any kind of soda or high caloric drink. And if you like soda a lot, just get like sparkling water, put some GamerSupps in there. If you're worried about the caffeine content, just do 0 caffeine, literally 0 calories. It's so much better to lower like caloric intake, especially if you drink a lot of soda. But 5 recommendations real quick I want to hit you with. Number 1, Blue Raz. Great, seriously tasty, just hard enough.
I mean, this blue raspberry is always good in any kind of way. So
2, strawberry daiquiri. Surprising one there. One of my top favorites, really came out of nowhere. Honestly, amazing. 3, guacamole gamer fart 9000, Russian Badgers flavor.
That sounds
ironically a top 5 on the
gross.
site. Shockingly good. It must have gone through a lot of testing because it is just, it's shockingly good. 2, dragon fruit, personal favorite. Love dragon fruit. Love the red color. Absolutely great. Finally, black cherry. It's one of my favorite
another one
sodas
that's
ever.
like always good. Like black cherry you can't go wrong with on anything.
So go check out the site in the description. Use code Bricky for your discount. And let's get on with, oh wait, the 3rd thing. That's right. I arm wrestled Raph from Dice Check after some alcohol. I won. I also sprained my brachioradialis, and I have to be in a sling and take muscle relaxers and go to PT for a couple weeks. Apparently I've won, but at what cost?
So you want to do some dude bro shit. There's action and there's reaction. The action was a dude bro shit. The reaction hurt his arm.
Hello everybody, my name is Bricky, currently serving about 3 life sentences for killing Pope Dog. I didn't actually do that. I can't imagine anyone doing that.
I'm sure someone has.
Most malicious and curious. Ooh, Elden Ring! It exists. It exists. It's actually here. It exists in this time frame. It's out. I hope I'm not the only one who finds that surreal. From the announcement trailer way back when to the YouTube channels dedicated to Elden Ring news, collecting dust. I can't believe it is out. It is played. I've beat it. I've beaten Elden Ring, and it's a game I will spoil. So be warned.
I guess almost 3 years old. Let's say 3, almost 8 year old. Next month be a year old Elden Ring. So
it's genuinely
if you need spoilers,
to approach
warnings.
a game like this to review. Normally you tackle it as a game, but then you have to tackle it as a Souls game, and then you have to tackle it as an open world Souls game, and somehow find a way to convey your feelings without sounding whiny, or worse, having a skill issue. There are few things that a Souls player hates more than hearing that something is too hard, which is a dilemma, because some parts of Elden Ring are simply too hard. There are flaws, with Elden Ring. The game is absolutely not perfect. No FromSoft game is, no matter how much you want
No
them to
game
be. I am a
is.
solid proponent that Dark Souls 1 is janky, unfinished, and generally doesn't live up to the hype it's garnered. But it's the game that walked, or let's say power walked, mind you, so that games like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring could run, or even sprint. So the question isn't, is Elden Ring good? Because it absolutely is. The question is it the best FromSoft game? And in my unbiased, completely objective, word is law opinion, yeah, probably.
Just to throw my 2 cents in. First off, he said like this community gets like really mad if you criticize it. It's true. The Dark Souls community, the Souls community as a whole, and gatekeeping is a big thing. They gatekeep damn it anything possible when it comes to Souls games. When it comes to Elden Ring being the best Souls game, his opinion, sure. My opinion, no. To me, the best Souls game is Dark Souls 3.
But it's not my favorite, and I don't think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite. The argument of best and favorite is something we'll touch on later in this video.
That's a big thing. I said this one because of Assassin's Creed. The best Assassin's Creed game to me is Assassin's Creed Origins. My favorite Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 by no means is better than Origins. It's not better than this Odyssey. It's not better than Assassin's Creed 2 or better. It's not even better than Assassin's Creed 1. In some ways it is. So it's not the better of like at least 3, maybe 4 Assassin's Creed games. But it's my favorite Assassin's Creed game. Elden Ring I feel like Elden Ring when it comes to is it like better than it might be better than Sekiro. I feel like Sekiro might be a little bit better than Elden Ring. My favorite is as I said before, Dark Souls 3.
But I still do believe that Elden Ring is a phenomenal, possibly the strongest Souls game there is, despite having its myriad of problems. But why is Elden Ring so good? Well, it immediately starts with the loathsome dung eater. Out the gate, Elden Ring is swinging for the fences. It has one of the best character creators out there for a guy who
it does have a lot of good things for character creator. However, it much like a lot of Asian games, especially from Korea and Japan, it lacks a lot of urban hairstyles. So if you want to make like a black character or black black man, black woman, Japanese developers and Korean developers tend to skimp out. They'll give you like maybe one afro and some cornrows and that's it. Some games don't even freaking do that. Some games are just like a buzz cuts all black dudes need. Elden Ring, great custom character creator, but it does lack some more ethnic urban hairstyles.
Has not a single uttered line of dialogue, just grunts of pain and noises, and will be covered by armor for most of the game, and yet it's still fantastic. Throw together everything from Shrek, Megamind, or in my case, Jimmy Faith, a man of the cloth, and then set out with your preferred class. In my case, that is Wretch. A buddy told me to play Wretch because if you play Wretch, then finding your first bit of armor is a feeling in the journey that you'll never get again. And he was right. It actually was, at least for 3 parts of my armor. I didn't find a pair of pants until the Academy of Rhea Lucaria, and even then, they were like half pants. So for a while, Jimmy Faith, man of the cloth, was pantsless. Before that, you are treated to, I'd say, the strongest opening of any FromSoft game. The narrator here absolutely slays it. And truth be told, the entire game's story can really be
I'd say that's basically why the opening for Elden Ring is as massive in your face. Is because the narrator does an amazing job. I would say cutscene wise, like in terms of like the images they show you, Dark Souls 3 has a better opening, but it doesn't have the same narration
from this opening narrated cinematic, but you don't really know that until you play the game. Lacking context, you don't really know what means what, but coming back to watching that intro again after beating it, everything starts to make sense. Man, guys be afraid to moan, but I'm in my girl's ear like,
oh, rise now, ye tarnished.
Truly, if we all had the confidence this narrator has, screaming out the words,
the loathsome dung eater,
depression would go extinct. Thrown into the game, you receive the classic, here's the first boss that you're gonna die to treatment, skip the tutorial because you don't understand metaphors, and you are greeted with a beautiful, immediate open world.
That's actually true.
Don't do.
A lot of people, even to this day, almost a year later, have not done the tutorial in Elden Ring. A lot of people don't even know there is a tutorial. A lot of people who play Elden Ring played it one time and they feel like This is insane that you make your character, you walk through this little thing, this door, and there's this big ass golden dude who will show ass. It's like, you need to tell you how to play the game. Like, there is a tutorial, but most people skipped it.
Justice to the beauty of this starting area. It is by far my
I
favorite
don't say
starting
most, just
area
a lot
of
of people
any
skipped
the
it.
Souls games I've played. Well, all right, Bloodborne's close. The foliage, the abundance of colors, the Erd tree taking up the skyline, all of it just dripping in detail and finesse. And the first NPC you see immediately says that you get no bitches. And then Miyazaki, in a move that altered the cosmos itself, gave you the here's the second boss to die to treatment as you immediately make your way to the golden armored horse in front of you and get bodied. And this is where the game is subtly telling you that this isn't quite like all the other Souls games. It's telling you that through the first merchant, your new rideable steed, the dungeon pointer dudes, that this is a game that will reward exploration. Not only does it have you reward exploration, but there's a reason to come.
That is true. When it comes to Elden Ring hits you with this thing called, hey, if you die, you can go do anything else and then come back at a later date. You can come back in 10 hours to fight this freaking big ass golden dude. You don't have to fight him right now. Compared to like Dark Souls 1, you have to fight the Taurus demon. Like if in Dark Souls 1, you have to fight the first real boss. I was to say first real boss because every Souls game has a tutorial boss. Even this game, Elden Ring, has a tutorial boss. Dark Souls tutorial boss is the Silent Demon. Do the whole little drop down, whoop his ass at the end. But let's just imagine you're playing Dark Souls once and we play Elden Ring, and let's just say that the Taurus demon is whooping your ass. You can't just be like, all right, I'll come back in 3 hours and beat you after I level up a little bit and whatnot. After I beat Margaret or whoever, I'll come back and beat you. You can't do that to the Taurus demon. You have to fight the Taurus demon right there. That goes for every boss in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 that are mainline bosses. You can't get in Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, and see Unit's Gundyr and be like, all right, you beat my ass. I'll be back in about 10 hours to beat your ass and Mr. Gundyr. No, you gotta fight Gundyr right there. You can't progress the game. Elden Ring, if you get your ass beat, you can just be like, all right, I'll come back later.
Back to multiple areas, i.e. the tree sentinel. I mean, some of you might bash your face into that giant horse riding fuck and then maybe you'll beat him that way, but most of you are instead going to attempt to move on forward with the story, go through different areas, level up, and attempt to go to the next spot, which is Stormvale Castle. The game is saying, hey, explore the areas. There's new enemies, there's items for crafting and collectibles, there's hidden dungeons. Oh, and don't mind the fucking dragon in the lake, because me, Miyazaki, to you player, is saying, let me tell you something, Kim, you're gonna need all that stuff because my first major boss is not gonna really let you through.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
This
Back at it
bitch.
again at Krispy Kreme.
Margit, the Fell Omen, a genuine roadblock for new players. Everyone.
The key word there is new players. Margit is easy as fuck if you are an experienced Souls player. If you play even just one Souls game, Margit is a cakewalk. If you are a new player though, Margit's a pain in the
One of these
ass.
games has that major roadblock.
Like I said, like you said about any boss in the game, if you're a new player to Souls games, and Elden Ring being as popular as it was, there's a lot of new people. A lot of new people played a Souls game for the first time with Elden Ring, and a lot of them, they didn't do anything other than go from point A to point B, aka they went from the door you walk through beginning of the game straight to Stormvale Castle and straight to freaking Margit. They're massively under level, massively using like garbage weapons and stuff like that. They just get their shit stuffed. Whereas experienced people at not just Souls games, but even like just general like somewhat difficult RPGs like The Witcher, like, all right, let me make sure I got myself, and then they'll go face Margit. And like they might die a couple times to learn his moveset because they might first not fight the boss. And again, if you're someone who play Witcher games but not Elden Ring, not Souls games, but you still don't know some stuff. There's people who are experienced Souls players like myself and Aspen Gold and potentially Bricky who probably just walk right through freaking Margit first try. It's like, all right, next bitch.
boss, I'd say, to really say like, okay, are you prepped for the full world you're about to experience? You might be making your way through it with some backstabbing cheese, maybe some magic thrown here and there. You're getting used to just holding shield and everything, but at this point, it's time that you need to alter your stuff. At this point, cheesy strats aren't gonna work, and whatever newbie gains you've got isn't gonna work. It's time for you to actually, literally, for the first time ever, used properly, get good. You want to play Elden?
I have an all bow build Elden Ring. The first attempt, Market died to a bow. I didn't need to use get good. I just need to use the button I press to shoot arrows.
Ring? Beat him. He's fast. He's slow. Quick strikes, drag strikes, jumping attacks, ranged attacks. He's a genuinely great boss. You can't roll spam against him. You need to memorize timing patterns. He is a genuine get good boss. If you want to survive an Elden Ring, learn to beat Margit. Because if you can't,
No, I know we're pausing again very quickly. I do want to say he's 100% right when he says this is the perfect boss for the beginning of the game. Market, for anything that you can't say about him, he shows you potentially what you will see the entirety of Elden Ring. When it comes to his quickness, when it comes to his big ass ground attack, you'll see that again. Very similar when it comes to the mainline bosses. It's like he's not a tutorial boss, but he's a good tutorial in a way of this is what you could look forward to when it comes to other bosses. Learn to telegraph his abilities, learn to sometimes not attack, but like step back a little bit to see what he's going to do. You don't have to die to learn a boss mechanics. Just step back, don't attack, and just watch what he does. And keep, rolling around just to see what he's doing so you can recognize what his abilities are so you can telegraph it and go from there.
can't beat Margit, how the hell are you gonna beat this, or them, or her? You might not even be able to beat her, if I'm being totally honest. Melania fucked up my arm and took my kids, gave me scarlet rot of the anus.
Melania isn't that hard. Melania is basically a one-trick pony, and that one trick just happens to freaking fuck you up, which is the waterfall dance. If you can master trying to avoid waterfall, you will have an easy time dealing with Melania. She's also someone who can bleed. There's a lot of bleed ups in Dark Souls, Elden Ring, so you can pretty much guaranteed to beat her. You can, I won't say guaranteed, but you can have an easier time with her with bleed weapons. But again, just generally, if you have basic knowledge of dodge and roll, or other attacks are pretty much easy to like look at and deal with. It's just waterfall. Waterfall's a gimmick, and it's 90% of what makes her difficult.
But what Margit does, besides drag attacks for 3 years, is force you to engage not only with the combat system to a T, but engage with the leveling system too. For most of the beginning of the game, you can just grab whatever weapon you can actually hold and go to town with it. But if you want to beat him, it's time you got started on your build. And that is my biggest compliment to Elden Ring, is that the build diversity is substantial. Souls PvP players are some of the whiniest and saltiest people out there. They are worse than Overwatch players sometimes. And when I hear them bitching about every single type of build, then that means we're in a solid game. Now, some builds might be more viable than others. You are in an RPG, no RPG is truly balanced, but now I feel like you can actually build yourself like an RPG. Full strength, easy. Magic, sure. Magic Dex, 100%. Moonblade, fuck you. Going blood, why not? Full Dex, hit that shit going. Faith, incantations, miracles, let's fucking go. Pyromancies, dragon shit. All these things are options.
And that right there is one of the best things about Elden Ring that no other Souls game has going for. Diversity. For example, I said before that I have a bow build in Elden Ring. You can try. It'd be very annoying and painstaking in other Souls games, but you basically, bows are not even weapons. Like, they're weapons, but they're not really weapons in other Souls games. Like, in Souls games, when it comes to bows, they're basically tools you use to knock high-hanging things down, or maybe you want to shoot a pot or something like that. You don't use them as your primary weapon. Elden Ring, you can use a bow as your primary weapon.
Jimmy Faith, as a man of the cloth, realized that the only thing his devotion to God was second to was his devotion to gains.
Yeah, buddy! Wait! Yep.
So strength, faith, I went, and for a large majority of the game, I spent it utilizing the
Ain't
giant
no faith
power
built.
the Tree Sentinel gives you. Incantations for regenerating health, or for giving myself extra defense, or things like Flame Cleanse Me, or perhaps some more damaging stuff like the Black Flame you can do, and just running around with that
I got a
giant
Black Flame
halberd,
build.
it felt good.
Dex build, Black
Faith, for
Flame
someone who
build, and I
barely
have a
ever
bow
used
build.
any kind of magic stuff in prior games. The only time I put that giant thing down was
And
when
a
the
magic.
blasphemous blade was calling my name, because I mean, come on. Now we can devour the meta together. The way he says that, man. Together. He's fucking... But everything works now. Because I know it does. Because the PvP community is whining about all of it. This is genuinely the most freedom I've had in build diversity in any Souls game. PvP and PvE. And they've made respecking incredibly easy, and they give you so many options to do it. All you gotta do to respec is go abort Renala's Amber baby. Oh, speaking of abortions, Kaylin. Man, I don't like Kaylin.
No one does.
No one likes Kaylin. The location variety is quite nice, despite that giant red piss-ass swamp. The early game is a bit samey, with the usual gold and yellow flowers everywhere and grass, overgrown ruins and that crap, but it does smooth out with time. I think the biggest change in scenery I saw was when I got to Hogwarts. It's also when I noticed something about this game. The open world stuff, the open world area of Elden Ring is very good and surprisingly suitable for this game, but it might not be the highlight for me. Now, it makes leveling up easier. It increases enemy variety, increases build variety, lets you find new weapons and new bosses and different areas to explore that lead to even crazier areas. There's a whole underground area that you never thought about as the map keeps expanding. And it also plays to the strengths as FromSoft as a developer. Their level design has been incredible, and despite me not being the biggest fan of Dark Souls 1 at times, the level design of that game is immaculate, some of the best in gaming. This was my map at the end of my playthrough. Notice the violent lack of grace spots. I didn't bum rush through the game, but I took it at my own pace. I went where I wanted. I didn't make sure that I get every single nook and cranny. Oh, I gotta make sure that I go that way before I go this way and this way. No, I just went. Sometimes dungeons, sometimes the mines, sometimes the underground area, sometimes not. I probably missed an entire 30% of the game, but there is no doubt in my mind that 30% is just as beautifully woven into the game as the rest that I did play. However, despite all that, my favorite sections of the games were the linear ones. I was happy every time I reached a section and we went into that old school Dark Souls variation of linear areas to move through. When, yeah, they had plenty of different ways and areas you could go around and pathways and that kind of stuff. And there was more to it than normal, but I liked those linear sections. I feel FromSoft's level design is the most apparent here, and also their visual design is too. I feel most comfortable with a light guiding hand going my way. You know, not a grabbing one, not a yank, but a light, like the pie in a cartoon where the smell like beckons. But I don't want it to be too linear, like Dark Souls 3 can fall into that trap sometimes. I'd say the perfect example is the Volcano Manor. There is an obvious direction you're being pushed towards, but there's lots of different side areas and beckoning hands and different parts of it. The Volcano Manor feels just really tightly designed and really well made, but not constricting. It's the perfect in between of just enough linear and just enough exploration. So Raya Lucaria, the Volcano Manor, the Hallowed Tree, the Stormvale Castle, and then Oklahoma, all those areas were my favorite areas of the game because they had just enough of that guiding hand for me to follow. And
Hey,
go
right
through.
now, the day I'm watching this, there's actually been some tornadoes today in Texas. He called Oklahoma because that place has a bunch of tornadoes just been around forever. And Oklahoma and Texas are known for tornadoes, so it's like Alabama, Louisiana, and like there's the Tornado Alley, then there's Dixie Alley, which is basically a southeast version of Tornado Alley. Yeah, today there's tornadoes in Texas.
Plus, their visual chops were the best there. Volcano Manor and Raya Lucaria especially. And actually, the Hallowed Tree was really gorgeous. It was very, very comfy looking. It just was surrounded by the most disgusting things ever. I should make it clear that I don't want the whole game like this, but I do think that that part of the game was the best parts of it. The combination of the open world seamlessly blending in with those linear sections, I think was just done masterfully. It also is great because the enemy variety is so high in these areas, and they all work with the places they're supposed to be in. Things like soldiers of Godric, that's just normal foot soldiers in the Stormville Castle, they have their place there. But then it's always mixed in with so many different variations, like bird with knife feet, bottom text, gargoyles flying around, and giant trolls pushing carts, and those kind of looking more Viking dudes with their curved swords on their horseback, the big dragon in the lake. There's just so much there. And then when you get to each of these more linear sections, they have so much more there. The Academy Ray Lucaria has those insanely frightening Iron Maiden on wheels things. You have all the spellcasters, the variations of spellcasters, you got the pot guys and a giant ball, and so on. Souls games have always been really good at this, you know. Ray Lucaria, magic, lots of magic stuff. You got lots of scarlet rot and creepy bugs in the howling tree, and you got a bunch of snakes in the volcano manor, but there's still so much variety in those enemies that it's okay, it's unique despite it being kind of obvious. This does, however, wear to a point. The capital itself is pretty great. The soldiers there are really interesting, and they're much stronger than the soldiers of Godric are. And that's really, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Lothric Castle near the end of Dark Souls 3. But right after that, after you take your step from the capital to the snowy hellscape that is the mountaintop of the giants, enemy variety takes a bit of a dip. In fact, a dip in quality that is rather uncharacteristic of FromSoft, because I mean, every game has its area that you're a little bit less keen on, especially in Dark Souls 1, because it was like Lost Isolates was very obviously unfinished. In this one, almost unanimously, once you get to the mountaintop of the giants, everyone agrees that there is a dip in quality and a massive spike in difficulty. Difficulty, Bricky. Okay. A difficulty. It's such an uncharacteristic dive too. Tons of reused enemies, health bars, double, damage, tripled. I feel like everything is a mini boss that I'm fighting, and everything three-shots me. Boss fights and dungeons are reused as regular enemies up here, and the enemy variety seems to have been plucked from various areas in different spots of prior maps. Like the big old swampland underneath Hogwarts has a crazy ton of enemies. Those weird fish-eyed people, the poisonous flowers that are there, plus all the soldiers, plus the wizard dragon, you know, just in that swampland alone. And the lobsters, the giant lobsters. But why are Kalid birds in the snowy mountain areas? And why are they so much stronger than the other Kalid birds? Actually, this, you know what? This is a great time to talk about enemies I really fucking hate.
You're not gonna scare us.
But first, The Last of Us ad.
I'm taking you with me.
Still ain't past us yet.
Birds with knife feet, the scarlet rot centipede things, blood dungeon imps, revenants, the Iron Maidens on wheels, Knights of Zamor, rot dogs, and finally, revenants, because it bears repeating. Who made that enemy? Who thought that was a good idea?
I hate those
Same
too.
motherfucker that made shark
Everything else you
giants.
mentioned
But
were
the
tolerable,
mountaintop
but
feels
I hate
like it
those.
pigeonholes the player. Like before, Margit was your blocker, right? Margit was like the get good time thing. But now, when you've beaten the capital and you've beaten Morgoth, Margit the Fell Omen, Morgoth the Omen King. Really great disguise, by the way. You're certainly not underleveled because you just beat the capital and there's a ton of enemies there and lots of runes and very high rune rewards, and you just killed Morgoth, so you're probably not underleveled, but you might be over-leveled because you've done so much of the game plus the capital that I do think quite a few people beat Morgoth a little too easily because they were just exploring everywhere prior. But it's like the game expected you to be over-leveled because of the way they made you explore everything and tried to reward you for doing so. So by the time you reach the mountaintops, they're either still too hard because you're over leveled, or basically impossible because you're at level. It is a shockingly difficult spike. It almost makes me believe that the capital itself should have been harder in order to prepare yourself for this increase up to the mountaintops and reward you for exploring more. Make Morgoth the blocker twice, which is an unfortunate thing that this dip in quality was so hard, because like I don't mind all bosses being reutilized. Like that's fine. Some of them can be. The weird watchdog things that look like cats but are I guess dogs that have the really annoying stab move, like Like if they're redone, all right, whatever. The Soldier of Godric is a freaking boss, for God's sake, and he's everywhere. But others, like the Black Knife Assassins, for example, the ones that turn invisible and grab you and backstab you, yeah, that just feels like poor design. Luckily, not every boss is reused, but a lot of them are. Luckily, most of the reused bosses are just kind of dungeon ones here and there that became regular enemies, and I guess that's
you
whatever.
can't forget the fact that the tree avatars are basically just the Asylum Demon. Like, you can't deny, like, I love Elden Ring. It's definitely the best game of 2022. But you can't deny not only the reuse of, like, the dungeon enemies and whatnot, but the entire 90% of the design of the tree avatar is the Asylum Demon from Dark Souls. So that's also pretty bad.
But at least most of the main bosses are not reutilized, and if they are, they're not reutilized as a regular enemy. I'm not a big fan that Moog and Godric can be reutilized, but at least they're not just a regular enemy roaming the streets. The main bosses tend to be really good in FromSoft games, and luckily in Elden Ring's case, that is exactly what they are. The design of these bosses are spot on. You've got Godric, Renala, Radon, Morgott, Rykard, Millennia, Blade of Mikola, Godfrey, Malakath, Moog, and Radagon, and just Radagon as some really highlights here. The names you hear spoken to you over and over again, the Shard.
I second the just Radagon comment, because the person who's after Radagon is probably the worst designed boss in the history of any From Software game. Dark Souls 2 has a lot of bad designs. Every boss in Dark Souls 2 is better than freaking Elden Beast. Every boss in Dark Souls 1, 3, Sekiro, Demon Souls, all better than fucking the Elden Beast. Elden Beast is the worst designed boss From Software has ever done.
Bearers of the Elden Ring, this is where the designs went out to. This is where the strength came from. They have some problems. Some are a little bit annoying on the run back, Renala. Some will give you more opportunities to attack, Malakath. Some are the Blade of Mikola, Millennia. But where they never disappoint is all that other stuff. Their aesthetic, their voice acting, their themes. The narrator was just a prelude to honestly some of the best voice acting I've heard in a video game, which is shocking that it's so good here, because normally that stuff is reserved for, one, not localized translation, and two, much more like mocap, facial animations and stuff. These people barely move their mouths, if anything, and yet they've got just so much power and effort put into their voices, especially the bosses.
Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights.
What is thy business with these thrones? Godric the Golden.
Join myself and King as remedy. Together we will devour the very god. Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
Whatever you say, Brother Blood.
Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
It's an often overlooked part of these games because it's not just some major linear kind of story-based game or one that has a ton of mocap. Every voice, though, every voice from the sassiness of Ronnie to
Lover.
Sir Gideon, Ofnir, the all-knowing. But I'm getting off track. The boss design here is mostly phenomenal. For the main bosses, there are a lot of reused and overused side dungeon bosses and the like, but for the main bosses, they're pretty incredible. Godric is an incredible early game fight with a great theme, great aesthetic, really good second phase, and incredible voice acting. Praetor Rykard took the Storm Ruler gimmick fight and actually made it fun, while combining a great aesthetic and some of the funniest goddamn voice acting I have heard in a game in this last like 5 years. There's some problems with that stupid skull move you keep running away from, but overall it's just worth fighting him for his voice. Guys be afraid to moan, and I'm in my girl's ear like,
Join myself and King as remedy.
Morgott, I think, is massively slept on for the reasons I mentioned earlier, where you might be over leveled to fight him. I think the Morgott fight is a standout. Top 5, definitely, maybe even top 3. He's got a great cutscene. His VA is incredible. The entire room, like his battle room, is wonderful. The theme is good. His phases are awesome, and the new moves he has, it's just a really
just use Swordsville on lights.
Radon I fought post-patch, and I don't really care about that because I fought him the way of the festival, the Radon Festival, where you summon everyone around. That's just fun. That's just a good time, and I love it. Just seeing Alexander the Jar run his way up is great. Godfrey is my favorite boss in the game, so much so that I wish he was harder. Phase 1 feels like the fairest fight in the entirety of the game. It feels just really strong with just enough opportunities to attack, just enough combos, and just enough time to memorize what he was doing, and even a nice little bit of mix-ups where you can jump over his kick move instead of having to roll everything, making it feel a little bit more like Sekiro, if I'm gonna be honest. And then phase 2, he just doesn't give you a moment to breathe. He is on your ass, full stop, going straight from like this giant muscle-bound warrior guy to Zero's Wrath. The man throws out wrestling moves.
I've given thee courtesy enough.
Just press some buttons, fool boy, and take that. And take this command grab like a man. Thank you.
The screams he does. Miyazaki
My God.
really decided that he was going to make the Giga Chad meme in the game, and he pulled it off. Godfrey is an inspiration. I look at that man, and I think to myself, this is why I try to lift more. Well, you know, if I look 1% like him when I'm in my 40s, I've lived a good goddamn life.
Man, I don't feel like working out today. Maybe tomorrow.
Okay, let's talk about Millennia, Blade of Mikola. Or better yet, let's talk about unavoidable damage in this game real quick as a tangent. When I said the game can be too hard sometimes, I wasn't just referring to the difficulty spike at the mountaintop. When it comes to Souls games, there's always a thing I appreciated in each of them. And it was that if I was good enough, there was never a point in which I would have to take damage. If I was good enough with my dodges, my jumps, and my sprints, everything I could dodge. Elden Ring doesn't appear to like that much. There are multiple instances of bosses that can hit you with guaranteed damage that I either straight up can't dodge or don't have nearly the reaction timing to dodge. For reaction timing problems, I can think of 2. I can think of Godric. He does that like spinny whirlwind move, and if I'm close enough to him, I take damage immediately. It has barely any time to react. That one doesn't bug me as much because it's such a tiny bit of damage. And the other one I'm thinking of is Malakath. When the first phase of his fight, he does the backwards double slice and then throws rocks at you. I hate that backwards double slice. It's so fucking aggravating. As
I don't know
for
why they do
flurries
that.
You can't.
Those are punishes. That's basically what they added to the game is a punish. Essentially, the AI in the game is programmed to attack you whenever you are likely to heal. So generally, when it comes to like someone who's playing these kind of games, if they don't time the first attack properly, then they'll take some damage and you heal yourself. The game's automatically programmed to, if you try to heal yourself, would immediately do an attack. I think they got that from Sekiro. I think Sekiro was the one who really started doing that to like punish you for healing. I've been another game that did that too, but generally that's what it is. They added something into the game for Elden Ring where if you try to heal or you get into a position where the game feels like you're about to heal, there's an auto attack after that just because, and it's going to be guaranteed hit because you're in the middle of animation that you can't really cancel out, which is essentially healing.
Dodge roll. Morgott, I believe, has this combination of sword plus light sword plus hammer or something of that nature that you can't dodge all of them. I know Godfrey in his second phase has a flurry of fists that you can't hit them all with. And then you've got Millennia's waterfowl dance. Even some regular enemies have moves like this. I know
I've heard that you can actually dodge waterfall. Just most people aren't going to be able to. Like, from what I've heard, it requires like an amount of reaction speed or telegraphing of her abilities to like see it coming. Generally, when I go against her, I don't have much of a hard time with her. Not in like some kind of like braggy kind of way, but just generally, what I do is I just try to like get distance between me and her. And that's my thought process when it comes to like waterfowl. Just try to get distance. When I see it coming, try to get. Sometimes I don't see it coming and I get hit by it. But generally, if I see it coming, I just get further and further away from her. And you also got to remember, like, after that first few swipes, she does it again, but like less swipes. So sometimes people, like, she'll do the initial burst and then they'll go for an attack, then get hit by that second burst, and it's like just let her suck her out real quick and then go for attacks.
Commander Nyal up in the
I hate that guy.
area.
There's any
He
fight in the
summons
game
these two
who's
guys,
I
and
feel
one
like
of
it's
them has
too
this
hard
big
as that fight.
icy sword spin to win move that I can't seem to dodge, and the other guy has the one where he slams his
Let me like preface that. When I say I feel like this fight is actually too hard, I feel like this fight is definitely hard to melee. Like, it's just a numbers game. It's like, think about Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 is filled with gank fights, but they're doable. This is a 3v1 gank fight, and it's just brutal. You can overcome it. I've overcome it, but it's brutal.
shield down, it stuns you, and you take guaranteed damage from the next swing, which is a little bit aggravating. There's a lot more of this in Elden Ring, and I don't mind enemies being harder. I don't mind enemies being faster, and I don't mind enemies having crazy combos like this. But when I take guaranteed damage, it's pretty aggravating. It also removes the concept of this really exciting clutch moment where I'm down to no flasks, barely any health, and I can pull it off just because I was such a goddamn gamer. I got good and was able to dodge everything in the game. I don't mind crazy stuff. I just need the ability to see it and react to it, or be able to react to all of it if I learn the timings. Which is why Millennia, Blade of Mikola, is a boss that if you tell me you love or hate, both completely valid answers. Millennia is a boss I love, but she is total bullshit. I love her because I love her design. I love the unpredictability. I find the fact that Miyazaki makes enemies that are about the size of our characters some of the scariest and hardest to be fun. Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower is my favorite boss fight in Souls games. And that feeling, that hunt.
I've never played Bloodborne, but everyone who has played Bloodborne is always mentioned Maria, and it's the only reason I want to play the game. The only reason I have any interest in Bloodborne, there's no fucking PC so I can play it, is Maria. I will buy that game $60 for a remake if they do a remake of it, full price. And most of you want to go that far too, just experience this one fight. The rest of the game, I don't care how good it is. I just want to experience this one fight, because so many fights in Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring followed her build. For example, Sister Fried in Dark Souls 3's DLC is amazing, and a lot of that design for that fight came from Maria. It's like, I want to have that fight. A lot of the designs for Millennia comes from this character. It's like, I want to fight her. I want to experience it. Put it on PC.
V Hunter thing in Bloodborne is a ton of fun to me. So when I fight enemies like Millennia, Blade of
Do you come here often?
Girl.
Blade of Mikola, I really like it. I like that mono duelist challenge. When I learn her combos, when I know what slashes do hit and don't hit, when I really start to figure her out, I feel so rewarded. It feels more like a dance than anything. There are also parts of this boss fight that I really like more than other boss fights because they are harder but in a more fair way. Some of her moves have end lag that varies, so after she'll hit me with a certain strike, I know I can hit her with just a light attack, or sometimes the end lag is so long I can charge up a full heavy with my tree halberds. Some of her moves can only be dodged in a particular direction. For example, she has this one where she collapses her blade to make it smaller and does this little flurry in front of you. I know that you can dodge that by going towards her and to the right and not get hit by any of it, because if I go backwards, I'm gonna get clipped. However,
it's right now, an experienced Souls player, the front roll is your friend in a lot of Dark Souls and Elden Ring and Sekiro fights. The front roll is your friend. A lot of people are scared to do a front roll because they feel like they'll get hit. It's just easier to just roll to the left, to the right, or backwards, because like you're avoiding the attack. So like mentally you're thinking, so why would I roll towards the attack? A lot of the reasons why I beat Naelin's King in Dark Souls 3 is because I just abuse the fuck out of front rolls. A lot of Naelin's King's abilities can you can get those iframes on some front rolls.
she's fucking bullshit. If you want to be a shield user, get fucked. You literally can't be a shield user against her. Her lifesteal doesn't matter when you have a shield. She will just take full lifesteal, which is bullshit. Summoning ashes or sometimes other players is also a terrible idea because she can heal off them too. Waterfowl Dance is literally undodgeable, that first flurry. That first flurry, so long as you are somewhat close to her in any way, is completely undodgeable. And she starts it up so fast that you do not have the time, if you are currently engaged in combat with her, to run away far enough. Flurry 2 and Flurry 3 of Waterfowl, however, is very much dodgeable. I know that after I take God knows how much damage from Flurry 1, when she starts the second one, I need to dodge to the left and towards her. And then when she starts Flurry 3, I need to dodge towards her again and then backwards after she's done with it to avoid the last little bit. I was able to replicate this pretty consistently, and I liked that challenge where it wasn't just about learning when to dodge, it was learning about when and where to dodge. That was fun. Flurry 1, it's not fun. It's bullshit. The only way I can imagine someone dodging this is some ridiculous speedrunner level, no hit level 1 crap that 99.9% of players are not going to be able to do or replicate. Now, phase 2 is a lot of fun. It's a really cool looking face change. Her design is amazing. Miyazaki somehow made a naked woman tasteful in his fucking Souls game, but she does some annoying shit like extending combos randomly for absolutely no reason. It feels like she gets more hyper armor on certain moves and not others, but only sometimes. And often she'll start up some moves so fast that I won't have time to react whatsoever. For example, she'll finish this big combo on me, I move in for my hit, and then she immediately flies up in the air, infects me instantly with Scarlet Rot, and then sends down her little skeleton projections the entire time while I have to sit there and wait for her to come down. Often I find myself waiting for her to finally come down or for her flower to be removed and all these kinds of things where I just wait and wait for the boss. This is a similar problem with Malakath, where he jumps in the air, does 3 giant spin blade things, lands on the ground with a stab, and then explodes. And then maybe, if I'm fast enough, I can hit him. Figuring out boss attacks is fun. Figuring out timings is fun. Learning how to dodge them is fun. I like Millennia because the time I spent learning not only when to dodge, but where was an enjoyable extra challenge. I like the design. I like how difficult she is. I like the dance. But she's got some crap. A lot of enemies in this game have some crap like that. You know, when someone goes to the state fair, it's trying to make the biggest burger ever, and the winner makes the burger and it's fucking crazy. It's enormous. The fact that it's actually a burger is insane. It looks like a burger, but it's gigantic. But if you look closely, you start to see the imperfections just a little bit. You see some areas that are a little burnt, some areas that are a little bit underdone because the patty is just so big, right? The fact that they needed so much lettuce for it, and some of the lettuce is not as clean looking as the other bits of lettuce. Millennia is the boss version of that big fucking burger. She's so over the top. She's so exciting, so fun, so interesting, but she crushes herself over the weight of her own ambition. I liked learning about her. I liked fighting her. I liked the design, I like all that stuff, but some of those things, the guaranteed damage, the combo, the duration extenders, the lifesteal, just removing builds, all that stuff, those are the imperfections of that burger. Honestly, that burger analogy is Elden Ring as a game. It's so impressive, it's so beautiful, it's so shocking how good it is that every crack, every tiny problem with it is highlighted that much brighter. The cracks in the FromSoft formula, the limits of boss design with this kind of gameplay system, it's starting to show. The reusing of enemies and just the crushing weight of what they were trying to accomplish here. It might be the biggest Souls game, it might even be the best Souls game, but it feels the most unfinished. Like I said, not because it's bad, but because it's so good that every little bit stands out that much more. It's why Radagon of the Golden Order, final boss of Elden Ring, is so goddamn good. For the most part, almost everything about him is spot on. He feels mostly really fair, he feels fun, good health, good attacks, good ways to learn everything. I think the teleport move is kind of bullshit, but besides that, he's clean. And then you get to Elden Beast, one of the prettiest trash tier bosses I've ever fought. A boss full of undodgeable damage, the big orb, a whole bunch of running away with downtime, him flying in the air and making you just sit there and watch him go as you jump over hula hoops surrounding you over and over again. It's a boss so...
I don't know how I got mouse. I couldn't really find to pause it. I will say when it comes to like the ring that he's mentioned, you can't dodge. You can jump over it, not take damage. But again, you have to have, you already think about this fight is a lot of the things you have to do for dodging involves this big green bar right here. So sometimes you don't even have the stamina to do a run jump to get over those rings because you're too busy freaking dodging all the other things. And again, you don't want to stand in the middle of it because once it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, there's like a little explosion. So you're sprinting, so your bar's going down because you're sprinting, and then the action of jumping also requires your stamina bar. So that's kind of more so the issue is when it comes to like that move is that you can get caught up with it because you're trying to like do the sprint jump and you're running out of freaking stamina. Or sometimes you like because of game frames, a piece of your boot might when you jump over it might catch the freaking ring and it'll do full damage to you.
Poor by being so pretty that I'm positive torrent was supposed to be used for it. It's shocking how much is built for torrent. I genuinely believe they tried to put torrent in there and something broke. It moves like a dragon, like the ones you've been fighting the entire playthrough. Tons of them, in fact, with torrent. The way it goes up in the air and does stuff, the way it runs away, the whole thing. Think about it. That orb, that guaranteed damage, torrent can outrun it. Those lasers that you have to go in a weird circle for, torrent can outrun it. When the Elden Beast decides to RNG fuck you to death and do both at the same time, torrent can move. Maybe the balls combined with the big long range slash attack, torrent could jump that. Lore wise, torrent is shockingly important. He picked you. Melina and goddamn Ronnie trust torrent. They care about his opinions so much. He's a major part of the game. He is so obviously meant for this fight, and something probably broke on it. And so they had to scale the boss down somewhat, but not entirely. And so now you have a genuinely unfun fight to deal with. One of
Mega unfun. Like, you spend so much. This is why I hate Elden Beast. It's not even about the damage. You spend so much time chasing it around. It's just awful. Like, if you, like I said, even with the shitty damage stuff, the fact that you spend so much time chasing around, like you'll do some damage, it'll jump up and go somewhere else. All right, I gotta run all the way over there. You do some damage, it jumps away. I gotta go run all the way over there. It goes underneath the ground to go somewhere else. I gotta like it's just you're chasing it around too much, and that to me is what ruins it the most. The damage thing is a big thing, but I can like deal with it. But the having to chase the boss around is so unfun. I hated any video game where I'm chasing the boss too much.
Best Souls games out there, and probably one of the most unfinished. It's why I think people won't consider it their favorite. It'll be talked highly of, especially for the open world stuff. Oh, absolutely. But everyone's number one? I don't know. It might be my number one, but it's tying with Bloodborne right now. I need to play more of the game. I haven't discovered all of it. I haven't done every quest line, and I still need VatiVidya to finish telling me what the lore is. I actually really like the Elden Ring lore. It might be my favorite lore out of all the games, but right now it's a little bit under Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne, mechanically,
I love Dark Souls 3's lore. Like, yes, it relies a lot on Dark Souls 1, but Dark Souls 3 lore is just so fucking good. Like, oh my god, I love it so much. Like, I feel like just the Nameless King's lore is better than all of Dark Souls 2's lore. I think it's better than all Sekiro's lore, and I love Sekiro. Sekiro has great lore, but I'm just saying, this is just how good the lore is in Dark Souls 3. That one character by himself. Oh my god, Nameless King's lore is amazing. The Dancer's lore, good god, the Dancer and like her little tie-in with Ponta Sullivan, who's also boss of Dark Souls 3. So Dark Souls 3's lore is so freaking good. Slave Knight Gale's lore, freaking the Abyss Watcher's freaking lore, freaking like damn everyone. I guess the tree. I don't really care about the tree and the tree's backstory and tree's lore, but fuck, dude, Dark Souls 3 is lore is just so good across the board. Dark Souls 1 is up there too. I think Dark Souls 1 lore is tied to me with it. Or Dark Souls 3 freaking. It's just at the top of the people.
is not as strong as Elden Ring whatsoever, but something about it. The difference between good and favorite. Genuinely, this game succeeds in so many fronts. It's going to be talked about for years on end. There's going to be videos that are going to be just consistently coming out for years. There will be content to be made. There will be lore stuff to come out. There will be people describing every other open world game to Elden Ring for a while, just like they did with Breath of the Wild. But a perfect game? Hell no. A finished game? No. Bullshit? Yes. Amazing? Absolutely. The hardest part about reviewing games is being able to talk about how much you love a game and how good it is, and simultaneously point out the problems, because no one wants to
As someone who does reviews on YouTube, it gets really like I hate those ones in a video where I have to find a way to say this game sucks. Like you sit here for like 20 plus minutes and you're saying like all these good things about a game that you enjoyed, and then you basically gotta like nitpick just to like say, okay, here's some of the bad things because it's gotta be fair, and these things might be small for me, but might be big for you. So here's these bad things about Witcher 3, even though I think Witcher 3 is the greatest RPG of all time. Not my favorite. Favorite Mass Effect, but it's the greatest RPG of all time. Let me just say some negative things. Just so these things might be bigger for you. Like that's one of the downsides of reviews is that like you can glorify the hell out of a game, but now you gotta freaking tell people these things are what I view as bad.
To hear it. No one ever wants to hear complaints for a game they love. I love BioShock. It's in my top 3 games of all time. I've got a chain link tattoo on my wrist, somewhat kind of, and yeah, I've got "Would You Kindly" tattooed to my fucking calf. What would I rate BioShock? 7.5 out of 10. Because everything after the "Would You Kindly" part kinda sucks ass. And the final boss sucks ass. But I still love it so much, it's on my body. And that's why there's absolutely nothing wrong with pointing out the problems with this game. Not everyone's gonna agree with me, and that's totally fine, but I despise the people who hold FromSoft games as if they're perfect masterpieces. They're really good, but no. They've got a lot of issues. But that being said,
That goes back to us about how the Souls community they gatekeep so fucking much, and a lot of it's just memes. I'll say this, like he might knows this too, but a lot of the Souls dialogue is meme shit. Like the whole get good things, the whole if you use magic you're a bad player, it's a meme. The whole don't use summons, it's a meme. The whole you didn't really beat a boss if you brought in like a friend or another player to help you out. It's most of that's kind of a meme. There are people, like just a small bit of people in the community who do believe that shit, and who cares? Fuck them. Play the game the way you want to play the game. Most From Software fans will tell you that. Bricky will tell you that. Asmongold will tell you that. I'll tell you that. Body Video will tell you that. Democracy will tell you that. Play the game however the fuck you want. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. There are a small minority of people who will say some dumb shit or be assholes. Ignore them. They didn't buy the game, you did. Do whatever the fuck you want with the game that you bought.
Elden Ring's my game of the year so far, and we'll see if anything overtakes it. Thank you all very much for watching.
And nothing
this video.
did.
To my patrons, you were all fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to create content like this. This one took a while to come out, and I hope you understand why. It's a long one.
A great video. Bricky comes out with some great videos. Get out a like, obviously, or subscribe. Bricky makes amazing videos. I'm surprised I never heard of him until recently. Like, not even at a million subs yet. He deserves a million subs. That guy makes amazing videos. Ricky talking about the quality of voice acting and doesn't give a single mention to the brilliant Gosmask voice. Every line the character said made me shiver. I mean, that's just like that kind of comment. You only got so much time in your video. You can't mention how great everybody is at voice acting. You don't mention like just the main ones, especially when it comes to like just bosses. You're an RPG. No, RPG is truly balanced. That is true. Yeah, what he said about like BioShock being one of his top 3 favorite games of all time, he sucks. That happens. Like every Halo game is a good game in my opinion, but every Halo game has awful boss fights. Like there is no Halo game with a good boss fight. It just doesn't happen. They're all awful. Halo 1 doesn't have a boss fight, so it's excluded. But the ones that do have boss fights, they're all awful boss fights. Terrible. But still great games. And your favorite game might not be a 10 out of 10. Again, my favorite game of all time is Mass Effect. Particularly Mass Effect 3. But like I kind of consider them all in one umbrella. The best game to me is still Witcher 3. My favorite is Mass Effect games. And I would never say Mass Effect, any of them, is better in any way than Witcher 3 or it's just not. Like there's things that it's better at, but I wouldn't say it's just an outright better game. Yeah, it's a good video. Keep up the good work, Bricky, because your content's great, my dude.